That's my plan. Looks like we do not have. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Cape Coral Charter School Governing Board. Today is Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. It is 5:30 p.m. and we are here at Council Chambers, and I will be calling this meeting to order. Before we begin, I am going to please remind everybody to use your microphones. It's very easy to forget, so if we do, I will remind you, but let's try to do that because I know a lot of people in the audience, they can't hear us when we are speaking. So first, let me go ahead and do a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Next, we are going to be presented with the colors from our color guide. So please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order, colors. Right, base. Forward, march. Color. Hold. Left, base. Order. Colors. Fall out.
You may be seated. Right. Madam Secretary, if you'd please call the roll.
Ataseli. Jackson.
Present.
Long, District 6.
Here.
Michaels.
Present.
Manaya. Stout.
Present.
Parent Representatives. Hoagland, OHS. Hoagland, OHS.
Here.
Shade, OMS. Present. Soto, OES.
Present.
Rouzeau, OEN.
Present.
All present, thank you very much. That brings us to item number 5, approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes dated for Tuesday, June 25th, 2024?
Motion to approve.
We have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That will bring us to approval of the agenda, regular meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the approval of the regular meeting, item 6?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Do we have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to public comment, which is limited to 3 minutes per individual, 45 minutes for a total comment time. Do we have anybody interested in public comment? Please step up to the podium. Seeing none, we will close public comment, and we will move right on to the consent agenda. So we have all received the agenda ahead of time, and we have all read the agenda. We're in agreement with that, yes. Is there any items that anybody is wishing to pull from the consent agenda? Is there any topics that Mrs. Collins is wishing to speak on the agenda? Any policy items that are pertinent that, I read a lot of the changes, I went through them all, they looked like they were really just kind of words and line items that were really just kind of vague and, yeah, nothing too important. And they're really just policy changes that, that NOLA does that all school boards really take on anyway, so. That being said, I'm going to ask for a motion that approves consent agenda items A through D.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 8A through 8D.
Do we have a second? Second. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, consent agenda. That brings us on to our superintendent's report. Ms. Collins, please.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back, Jackie Collins, Superintendent. I hope everybody enjoyed their summer break. Ours, I can say the charter schools went very quickly, and all of a sudden we're back. Poof. I have a presentation to share with you. It's a recap of last school year. Thank you. And just a little bit about where we're going in 24-25 based on what we've kind of determined last year were our needs. Oops. Just give me a minute. Huh? Hmm. Thank you. Okay. But basically, this is just our vision and mission statement. We all know that they haven't changed over the course of the last year. We had our strategic planning session back in October, November. We decided that we liked what we saw in our vision and mission statement, and we decided to keep them the same. Our vision states that we believe that everyone can succeed in a nurturing environment based on great and diverse community partnerships. And our mission statement relays the fact that everybody can become responsible, critical thinkers who can compete in the global workforce. And as I get more into the presentation, you'll see that what we have planned in the future really speaks to our mission statement. So I'm basically going to speak about 4 different things. I want to talk about charter school workforce last year in FY24. I want to talk to you about the end of the ESSER funding that has come in over the last 3 years, which has been significant. I'd like to share with you some of our student test data from last year compared to the state and the district of Lee County. And then I'd like to tell you how we're moving forward with our strategic goal number 1, student achievement, based on what we discussed and established in our goal-setting plan in October. Okay, this is just a little background on our workforce for 23-24. We hired 34 teachers. It was about a 17.4% turnover. We had a total of 52 people that we hired across all classifications last year. And 17% is typically right on. I want to focus on the teacher data. In particular, these are the reasons why we found that our teachers left our school system. We had 8 teachers that left because of non-renewals, and that means that we didn't renew their contract. There was a reason for that. It was a performance-based issue. So we were responsible for those non-renewals. We had 8 teachers that left because they accepted offers from other school districts. 5 left because of the financial impacts, which really boils down to salary and being able to afford to live in the city or surrounding areas. 5 teachers left because of employment opportunities outside of the profession. 4 teachers left our system because they wanted to stay home and they wanted to focus on their families. We also had 4 teachers that did not come back because they retired from the profession, and 3 teachers left because they relocated out of our area completely. Okay, so I just gave you a little recap of this school year. We hired less, only 25 teachers were hired, and we had 31 new hires when it's all said and done altogether so far this year. I didn't give a percentage because they left for a variety of reasons, and our year is not over yet. Sometimes we just had 1 teacher that resigned a couple days ago, so people come and go throughout the school year. So at the end of the year, I can give you a full recap of workforce. Okay, moving on to ESSER funding. This is a sad day for us. We've had a great 4 years actually, of ESSER funding. We received 3 separate ESSER grants for a total of $9.9 million. ESSER expenditures and reimbursements are coming to an end in September, the end of September 2024. So we can expend up till that date. I think there's a little bit of a grace period up until November or December of this year, but after that, all expenditures need to be submitted and reimbursements must be made from Lee County. So this is a breakdown of total ESSER expenditure per school. Funds were divvied up per school based on enrollment. So you'll see some schools have got a little bit more. Oasis Elementary was the highest because their enrollment numbers were the highest. But generally, they were relatively similar. And this is a graph generated by the Finance Accounting Department that shows each ESSER grant and how much we received per school. As you can see, ESSER 1 was a very small amount compared to ESSER 3, which was the largest grant funded for our school system. The purple on the top is not actually representative of what is remaining. We have been working diligently to spend these funds down to as close to nothing left as possible. The middle school doesn't have anything left. I think the high school is also done. We're trying to spend down some funds at Oasis Elementary South, but not at the levels that are shown on this graph. I think Andrea created it a little earlier this year, maybe in June. So if you wanted to know what we spent ESSER expenditures on, here's a good breakdown for you. We spent a good amount on computer equipment, Chromebooks, Promethean boards, and also computer upgrades. We spend money on curriculum, textbooks, software, classroom supplies, periodicals, capital assets. We bought a lot of furniture, capital furniture, front office furniture, cafe, tables, sound system equipment, replacement AV equipment, student furniture. It's been revamped just about at every building. We did spend a good amount of money early on cleaning, cleaning supplies. We had wipes, we had sprays, we had buckets, we had, you name it, we had it. Masks. We did buy a clinic tracking software program for our clinics, which was really needed. And we spent a good amount of money on professional counseling for those students that were having problems with anxiety, coming back to school, and being at home when they couldn't come to school. In addition, we spent the most on labor. Not just on additional positions that we really benefited from, long-term subs, for example, extra teachers that were interventionists, but from special pay for tutoring for students to close the achievement gaps. Summer school was a big expense. COVID leave pay and stabilization pay bonuses for staff. And then professional development. We had a field day with professional development. Boy, we went on every conference that we thought was applicable to meeting the needs of our students, to expanding and broadening what we thought we needed to lead our progressive school system that was a high-performing charter school system. And we really did take advantage of that. We went to Learning in the Brain in New York City. We went to the Smithsonian for a summit on hiring diversified teaching staff. What else did we do? We went to California for the Aurora Institute, Orlando, which I'll talk about coming up, for AVID training and Kagan training. We made good use of that money. And this is another grant, another graph designed by Andrea in accounting. As you can see, we spent a significant portion of those funds on labor costs, which was greatly appreciated. And I just threw the slide in because I thought it was important to share that we did spend $1,546,000 and change on bonuses to our staff, from ESSER and reserves last year. So we did make a tremendous effort to take care of our personnel in the best way that we could, which was bonus dollars in their pockets. Okay, now I'd like to share our student test data from last year. This is always a part of our strategic goal number 1. I'm going to show you proficiency levels because we excelled in proficiency levels across all 4 schools, across all tested subject areas. We blow away the district scores and the state scores, and I'm going to show you that this is fast score testing data that the principals receive from the program, from the progress monitoring that we do. And I want you to look at the columns as they go across. The far right column shows proficiency levels of first the state, then the district, and then how our school does in comparison to the state and district. Now I'm going to show you very quickly all tested areas. I'll give you a copy of this if you'd like to peruse it more carefully, but the reason to show all these tested areas is that in every subject area, every one, we far exceed what the district proficiency levels and the state. Now, there are some areas that we need some work on. We know that. We've identified those, and I'll share that as we go through. But I'm going to go through this very quickly. This is U.S. history at the high school. You can see 77% versus 56 and 67 at the district. This is ELA 9th grade. We made a 10% gain in proficiency from the year before. This is English Language Arts for 10th grade. We made huge gains in English Language Arts in 10th grade. Much better. I mean, far better than the district. Algebra. Algebra scores generally at the high school level are a little bit lower. You can see at the middle school, they are phenomenal. But we take students that are at level 1 and level 2 in algebra in high school and try to get them through the program. So generally, scores are a little bit lower, but we know we need to work on this coming up in the upcoming year. Geometry is the same. It's better than the district and state, but still low enough that we need to address geometry. This is middle school. This is 8th grade science proficiency. We made a little bit of a gain, but we far exceed what the state and Lee County do. We're going to try to work on those scores, being a STEM school. This is 8th grade algebra EOC, and as you can see, we have 98 proficiency. You can't beat that, compared to 38% with the district. This is civics. They pulled in an 86% proficiency level, and as you know, any test subject that scores in the 80th percentile or higher helps us receive the status of schools of excellence. And if we're schools of excellence system-wide, we don't have to conform to certain things, such as the change in start times in 2026-27. This is reading in 6th grade. We did better than the district, but we do have to work on ELA proficiency at the middle school level. 7th grade reading proficiency is significantly better. Reading proficiency is down in 8th grade. It's an area that we're targeting to work on. This is 6th grade math, another area that we need to work on. 7th grade math, our proficiency levels drop significantly, or another reason for concern that we'll be addressing. And 8th grade math in the 90th percentile. So we know where our weak areas are, and we'll focus on those areas based on this data and other data. This is Oasis South. Their fast scores for science. They made significant gains in science compared to the district. English Language Arts, 3rd grade. English Language Arts, 4th grade. 5th grade Language Arts. You can see we really, really do well. Math, 3rd grade, 79%. We're in the 80th percentile for math in 4th grade. We are in the 86th percentile for math in 5th grade. And here's OEN. We're kind of in the same boat. ELA is a little bit lower, but not bad. 71 percentile in 4th grade reading, 64 percentile in 5th grade ELA. Kevin knows that he has to work in that area. Score's not acceptable. But then when we get to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade math scores, we're back in the 80th percentile again, which is unheard of. And we're very proud that what we're doing for math really is efficient, and we're really doing well in those scoring areas. Science at the elementary school, we know that we focus on STEM, which is robotics, and a variety of STEM programming in that area. We need to get back to the basics and incorporate our science curriculum into what we're teaching in STEM so that we can bring these scores up just a touch. Because I think, in my opinion, anything below 70 percentile, we can do better. And the principals agree. This is a chart on gains. This is Oasis High School, and the gains we've made from the course of one year to the next. We didn't have any baseline data for ELA learning gains and L25, which is the lowest percentile group for students. So we will have scores this year so that we can increase our gains. But if you notice that they've made 10 plus points in ELA, 14 in acceleration, and that's for all the students that enroll in dual enrollment, ACE curriculum, AP courses, kids that get certifications upon graduation. So they have a total of 32 points in gains this year over last year. Am I saying that correctly? Here's the middle school. We know that we need to work in certain areas like ELA. We lost a little traction in math, but social studies, that EOC in the 80th percentile held them strong with an 11-point gain. Oasis North had a decent gains in ELA. They held steady in math for a 19% gain from the year previous. And then OES is back up with 12 points in ELA, science up 12 points for a 32-point gain. That's remarkable. So I commend my principals, my teachers, and my interventionists, and my students for doing such a great job last year in student test scores. Also part of the strategic goal is student achievement, and that has to do with what we developed in our strategic plan last year. We wanted to design a rigorous and aligned curriculum so that all students can master and expand their knowledge and learning. So as an administrative team, we sat down and said, what do we need to be successful? And here's what we determined back in November. We need a vertical alignment, and that means K through 12. It's a system-wide desire to function together academically. We need increased opportunities for our students to be college and career ready. We need to expose them to what's out there after graduation so that they can participate in a dynamic global workforce. We need to increase rigor across the curriculum, and we need to integrate those resiliency skills into the basic curriculum and instructional principles. Resiliency skills are those social skills that cause anxiety, fear, problems with students wanting to come to school and learning how to work well with others. And I'll show you how we did that. We are implementing a system called AVID, and AVID is a great pathway that will, and I'll share the basic fundamentals of AVID combined with some other learning programs that are going to get our students ready to be successful in the world outside of school. The beauty of AVID is that it's a system-wide program, and we're going to start early learning the same principles of certain things, and I'm going to share it next, what we're going to learn so that all of our students are ready. They're going to learn what they need in elementary school to be successful in middle school. They're going to learn in middle school. They're building those learning tools in middle school to be successful in high school, and then we'll cap those tools in high school so they're ready for the workforce. So AVID basically, in a nutshell, is a universal approach to learning. It focuses on instruction. It focuses on systems, because as a system, we're all sharing the same universal language for what we want to instill. It focuses on leadership. We have to have a leadership buy-in. We all have to be on the same page, wanting our students to learn the same things. And we have to develop a culture that develops student agency, which means students have to take responsibility for their learning. We're going to give them all the tools. We're going to give the teachers all the tools they need so that our students can be successful on their own. So this is basically our one page of non-negotiables for our system. Every school has a one-pager of non-negotiables. They're a little bit different because the elementary schools and the middle school have not been exposed to AVID and Cambridge like the high school has, because Jackie Corey came from an AVID school. So we're learning, our learning process is just a touch slower. But we feel that we can increase rigor by investigating Cambridge, K through 12. We do it very, very well at the high school. We have about 50% of our students participate in Cambridge. We think we can improve that number of students that can participate by tweaking certain things, and I'll explain in a minute. AVID is the universal language of best teaching practices and instruction that we're going to teach our teachers so that our students can be more successful. And Kagan is the cooperative learning component of this overview that's going to help teach our students the social skills they need to interact collaboratively and to be engaged in the learning. So we're going to use these 3 programs by implementing Wicker strategies. And Wicker is the basis of everything I just said. We're going to teach writing skills. We're going to base it on focused note-taking. There are some examples. We're going to teach inquiry. How do our teachers encourage higher order thinking and critical thinking levels and questioning so that they can participate in the higher Bloom's and Costa taxonomy instead of at the basic low-level functioning. We're going to incorporate collaboration, and that's through Kagan. We're going to organize our students. Every student's going to have a binder. That was one of our essentials and our non-negotiables this year. If you're an elementary student, you're going to have a selection of folders. If you're in middle school and high school, you're going to have a binder in which you have an interactive notebook, you have assignment logs, so students are accountable for what they're learning, what the assignments are that are due. Everything's going to be in that binder for a reference point for organization, and they're accountable for their learning. And reading strategies, of course, we're going to teach them how to break down all content areas using these strategies so that they become better readers. Because as you can see, our math scores are great. Kids today, there's something about wanting to learn how to read. They're not interested in reading like they were back in the day. So our non-negotiables for this year for our new schools, new to Kagan, are organization and writing, which is the focused note-taking. So you will see coming home that our students, and Jackie Corey is going to elaborate a little bit more on this when she gives her presentation, they're all going to learn the same note-taking skills, and they're going to build from one year to the next so that when they get to high school, these note-taking skills and these organization tools to address their learning and to reflect on their learning and to remember their learning are going to be, they're going to be automatic. And it's going to be something that's going to help increase their learning abilities. This is just another slide on Wicker strategies. We're all going to learn how to implement Wicker strategies in a variety of ways. There are probably 200 ways to teach organization, to teach inquiry, to teach writing. We're all going to learn them. And eventually teachers are going to have these skills in their toolboxes so that they can adjust the learning based on what each student needs. This is an example of Kagan structures. It's a proven universal approach to collaborative learning so that students learn how to talk to one another. They learn how to learn from one another. There are a variety of ways they can do think, pair, share, round robin. I mean, I could go on and on. These are the skills that the teachers are now learning so that they can engage their students in these strategies. And so this is our 3 to 5 year academic plan that we've rolled out. We knew last year what we needed to do. So we said, okay, over the summer, we're going to send 50 teachers to AVID and probably 25 to Kagan. We're going to do a train the trainer kind of thinking where our teachers are going to go and learn what AVID and Kagan is all about. They're going to bring it back, and they're going to train throughout the course of the year the rest of the teachers. Very slowly but surely. We're going to do classroom walks. We're going to go to different classrooms to see it in practice. Our middle school in preschool week went to the high school to see Wicker strategies in action. And we're going to have professional development throughout the entire school year that's going to focus just on our non-negotiables, which will be, for 3 of our schools, organization and note-taking. The high school's a little more advanced. They're going to focus on much more. So next summer, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to send another group of teachers to Kagan and AVID. We're going to have them learn what the admin team learned and the first group of teachers. We're going to implement it again in preschool week, and we're going to implement it all year long. So that by 26, 29, we want to be a showcase school that has these systems in place in a flawless manner. Now, what I forgot to say was that in between, we have to investigate Cambridge because we don't know yet what Cambridge looks like in the elementary and middle school levels. So we're going to go visit Cambridge schools. There's some in this area. There's some we have to travel to. But we think our students can handle Cambridge curriculum. It's rigorous. And that's what we need. We need something more than what our generalized textbooks are providing us now. So that's on the plate as well. So this is our outline for our strategic plan goal, and I think it's a pretty well outlined system. And we'll tweak it and perfect it as we go. Oh, okay, and that's basically what I have. And there you are, our governing board. Thank you all for participating in our strategic plan last year, our budget workshops, for everything that you've done. This has really been a wonderful board to interact with and deal with. You've been very focused and engaged, and I thank you as well. Are there any questions?
Regarding the summer school, I noticed several slides back, it looked like when you were doing summer school, you had some ESSER funds to support that. Is that something that in the future we may be able to continue to do, or without that funding, that might not be in the cards?
That was a lot of money. There were so many grants for summer school programs, for STEM programs, for curriculum enrichment. That money's never going to come again unless we have another pandemic, perhaps. But we just have to be wise about budgeting our money for those needs. We have to offer summer school for those students that are failing. The tutoring is really the biggie that the administrative team agreed was really beneficial to getting our kids up to where they needed to be, because ESSER funding paid a good $35 an hour on some occasions. In those high testing areas, sometimes we paid $50 an hour to the teachers, and that made the biggest difference. So summer school, yes, that would be ideal. If we budget appropriate, we can do that. We have to remember that the tutoring is key. We want to be able to pay for the tutoring. We don't want parents to have to pay out of pocket for tutoring, because not all parents can afford to pay for tutoring. It's a budgeting issue that we're now going to have to solve to maintain those levels of closing the achievement gaps.
Do you anticipate that the tutoring is kind of going to end up having to go by the wayside, or maybe only in
No, we're going to figure out a way to find those funds, because it was beneficial and it made a big deal. We saw significant results from tutoring
It sounds like the tutoring prevents the summer school in a lot of cases.
in a lot of cases. A lot of the summer school programs that we did were for fun. We wanted to close the learning gap. They were fun programs. But we do the typical things every year. We do kindergarten summer school to get the kindergartners ready for car line and what walking in a line looks like. Middle school does it every year. Elementaries do it. High school does credit recovery. So those things will always stay in place. Those extra things that we do, we'll have to take a look at. Now remember, we are going to try to implement the before and after school program. That's going to generate money, and maybe that money can be earmarked for those extra summer programs that our kids love. We got a great turnout at elementary. At middle school, not so much. He had some great camps that he was offering. We just didn't get a good response, so we're going to have to take a look at it again for next summer. That was a good question.
Dr. Minaya?
First off, I mean, the strategic plan looks incredible, looks phenomenal. Just wow! To have been here for a number of years, and then to see this, who knows what level of excellence you can achieve with executing, this. So congratulations to everyone who put this together. Is project-based learning embedded in here, or how would you characterize it?
Project-based learning is always embedded in what we do. Maybe not to its fullest extent, but when we have a lot of our STEM initiatives are project-based learning, and it's just incorporated, it's one of those principles that are incorporated into good teaching fundamentals. That's just what shows results. In addition to the collaborative, project-based learning is collaborative. It's working in groups. It's solving problems. It's solving issues in the community or issues in the classroom. That's not going away. We're just adding additional teaching philosophies and strategies that are working, that research shows, and project-based learning is one.
And maybe just a final question: have we seen, just interacting in the community, the question or the desire comes up, I'm hoping to get my child into OASIS. Have we seen the wait list grow, or have you noticed anything like that?
I think the wait list is growing as we speak. It grows, it's always growing. And we've gotten a lot of phone calls this year about getting into the system, and we have to turn them away. So yes, the wait list, it's there. I think some families get defeated because they sit on the wait list. If you don't have a sibling preference or a military preference, Some families are waiting for years on this wait list, and it's a shame. But we ask them every year if they want to stay on the wait list, and they do. It's growing. It's not diminishing by any means.
Thank you.
Questions on here?
Is this published anywhere, or are we able to get a copy of this presentation?
You can certainly have a copy.
It wasn't in the backup, I don't believe, is that correct?
It was not.
Okay, just some pages that I would have liked to spend more time on, obviously, I know you can't do that here, for the presentation. but
Absolutely.
If you could have that sent, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The parent reps have some questions?
Okay.
Come back to Ms. Atasai.
Just real quick, I wanted to go back. I know that there's a lot going, investment and time with your Avid system. I can't remember if it was one of the slides that indicated that there may be a scholarship connected with that, or did I misread that?
No scholarship.
Okay.
It was a showcase school we said we would like to become eventually, where other schools can come in and see what we're doing and how well our children are doing based on all the principles that we will be instilling into the curriculum moving forward.
Do you know if if we do really well, would that bring in any extra money at this time?
Probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, you're the Avid expert. Come on up. Come on up.
We're still doing your presentation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. If you look at our data, let's just talk high school in Point, and you see, you're looking at our Cambridge population is at 48%, and our gen ed population is at 52%. I really believe that if we implement these strategies K through 12, and we start teaching organizational skills and developing some of these writing skills and reading skills, I think our students are pretty talented, and I think they're capable of far more. If they're learning some of these early intervention strategies that are going to stretch them further, I think we will be able to see students have more opportunity to take some of our advanced studies. So I think it leads to far more opportunity for our kids. It brings in far more funding for the school with the dollars that are produced through Cambridge certifications that students can earn. And then we're going to discover what the possibilities are in the elementary and middle looks like too with Cambridge, because that's going to bump that rigor. And our kids have great potential. Some of our kids just need to learn how to be organized and stay on point and dig deep into those reading strategies and learn how to talk to one another and have that questioning and that higher order thinking. And honestly, I love it when we talk about this. This is not about Avid. This is about, when you look at Wicker strategies up there, all of those skills should be in every classroom around the world. Writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. This is about making a conscious effort so that everyone's rowing in the same direction, and so that we're intentionally thinking about those skills to better teach our kids to have the skills they need so that they can push themselves academically and be better prepared. So I do think that we can bump that rigor and really increase those opportunities for our kids, because it's going to all rise up. And honestly, it's also just early intervention for our kids, right? Giving them those deeper refinement of skills that they need to be better prepared. Does that make sense?
And Ms. Corey, your presentation is going to be a little bit about Avid? Okay,
High
so I'll
school.
save my questions for that. So my comments on that is vertical alignment. I think that is definitely the avenue we should be going, for sure. I think that we're going to see great gains from that if we're vertically aligned and we're starting from kindergarten. By the time they get to that high school level, they're already going to be thinking that way. They're going to be programmed and geared and ready to go. And that's going to make a huge difference. There's no question about it. So I think that's great that we've come to that realization. So as far as making us a showcase school for this and implementing that into our strategic plan, that's brilliant. I mean, that's great that we did that. It's my understanding that as a charter school, we're almost an incubator. We're supposed to, that was the intention of charter schools, was to go out and do things and kind of invent and do things differently so that the public schools could then learn from us. So I think this is a great way that we could actually be that incubator school for this program, become that showcase school, and then we could go and share that with the Lee County school system, who I think could, they could use this, I think, right? So they're partners with us, and they've always, we've been in a partnership with them from the beginning. They hold our charter. So this is a way that we could give back to the Lee County school system that's always graciously given to us. So I think that this is the way that we partner with them, the way that we've always been looking to partner with them, that we've never been able to do. So I think this is that avenue that we can do that. So I think this is great, and I'll have some questions after yours, so thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, Mark Mason, Financial Services Director. I don't have any report for the city manager's report, but I think we'll probably go to number 2 if you want. Might as well start somewhere. Yeah, let me start this. I do have a little slideshow for you. Okay, so we have sent you a draft of a master lease agreement, the Second Amendment. I'm not really asking for any action tonight. The City Council will actually look over this and have a meeting on this agreement on September 11th at their Committee of the Whole meeting. So if anybody wants to be there for that meeting, then certainly we welcome you for that. What we wanted to do is kind of give you a little preview of our thoughts on this, what we took away from the joint meeting that you had with regard to the football field, and what we understood the direction from the City Council to be with regard to the local capital improvement funds, the PICO funds, as well as an amendment to the lease. And as I recall, at the last meeting that you had, I remember the chair here had a discussion about that, whereby I think you all wanted to draft the lease as well, and try to get out in front of whatever it is that whatever anybody was looking at. Okay. So as a reminder, with the LCI funding, it's something new, went into effect this past fiscal year in 2024, was passed into law in 2023. And the Local Capital Improvement Fund is it represents a piece of the 1.5 mils that the district is allowed to assess against their property values in Lee County. Okay, it's separate and distinct from the operating millage rate, and it's singular and only available to school districts. So it's not something that we can go out there and use or try to set. It is solely associated with school districts. The state also has PICO funding, which is the Public Education Capital Outlay Fund, which was designed for charter schools as well as actually all schools within the state of Florida. And there's a dollar value that they set years ago that would probably be at the $1.5 million range, and then it would have some increase associated with the CPI on an annual basis. So today we're at about $1.9 million as opposed to the original $1.5 million, and the state, through their general appropriations, continues to set that aside. So Section 113.62, which is capital outlay funding for charter schools, essentially sets forth exactly how the charter schools will be funded with capital outlay funds. Now, you have the PICO funding, and then you also have this local capital improvement funding. If there are any capital improvement funds, or I should say, if there are any PICO funds that are set aside by the Florida legislature in their general appropriations on an annual basis, whatever calculation comes from the LCI, you would subtract out the PICO funds from that, and then that would be the net amount that the school district would be required to send to the charter school system. Okay? So in this case, and so at the same time, when they implemented this, they implemented it again, and it went into effect in 2023. The first year, there was going to be a 20% of the net amount coming from the school district, and then 40% in 2025, 60% in 2026, 80% in 2027, and then in 2028, it would be at 100%. And so this essentially gives the school districts a little time to get used to the fact that they're going to be sending a portion of their 1.5 mil assessment for capital outlay to the charter school systems throughout the county, or in this case, throughout the state for each school district. So I want to remind everybody what you can and cannot use it for, all right? So for charter schools, I mean, this is right out of the statute. We give you the section, so anybody wants to read along with this or go look at it, it's going to be basically tell you the same thing. And so the charter school's governing body can use these funds for a purchase of real property, construction of school facilities, lease, purchase, lease of permanent relocatable facilities. And in these three cases, the first three cases, whatever it is that the charter school would desire to do with this, the city council would have to first approve either the acquisition of real property, the construction of any new school facilities, as well as any purchase, or lease of any permanent relocatable school facilities. For D, in this case, AD, that's up there, the purchase of vehicles to transport students to and from charter school, this generally means buses. But at the same time, we also recognize that you have vans that transport a number of students to and from the charter school if they're going on a field trip or they're going to another school or something like that. I believe that those vehicles also are eligible for the use of the capital outlay funding. And they have been used for that. In this particular case, in 2024, we purchased the second shark van with that as well, utilizing those funds. In addition, as long as there's a long-term lease in effect, that's 5 years or longer, these funds can also be used for the renovation, repair, and maintenance of school facilities that the charter school either owns or is purchasing through a lease purchase or a long-term lease. In this case, it's a long-term lease that the charter school system has with the city of Cape Coral for the facilities that the city built. You can also utilize these to pay the cost of premiums for property and casualty insurance premiums. This is only for property and casualty insurance premiums. Currently, the city, based upon our current lease, which I believe still is the Scrivener's error, calls for the city to pay for those, but it certainly is eligible to be paid for from this capital outlay funding. In addition, you can lease purchase, or vehicles for driver's education. We can also purchase any vehicles for the maintenance folks that maintain and operate the plant and equipment on site. Any security vehicles that would be required for the operation of the school system. And then, of course, any other vehicles that we would use that were for storing or distributing materials and equipment. So that's usually when you're transporting equipment, computer equipment or whatever, from one school to another, where you're transferring equipment, that we can certainly do that as well. Right now, there's no plans in the budget for any of that, but it is certainly an option if we were to look at that. And last but not least, second to the last but not least, purchasing and lease purchasing the majority of all the computer hardware, device hardware, anything having to do with IT or information technology for the operation of the school system, as well as any enterprise resource software that is used within the school system for their annual license fees, any maintenance, lease agreements, or otherwise. And last but not least, which this does not apply to us today, it would be the payment of the cost of any operating opening day collection for the Library Media Center for any new school. So that really doesn't apply to us, but it's certainly still within the statute. So if there was ever a new school and there was collection of the Library Media Center, we could utilize it for that. Okay, so the Second Amendment, we'll go through the language here in just a little bit, but right now the lease term we would propose that would be for 5 years, and we'll renew every 5 years automatically. It would start on July 1, 2024, and end on June 30th, 2029. And if automatically renewed, it would renew again for another 5 years. The minimum rent, we have something in there called a minimum rent of $1.5 million. I'll kind of walk through the reason why there's a minimum rent, but we set aside the minimum rent, which is essentially the same rent as it is today, $1.5 million. And then we would add whatever the net LCI and PICO funding was. When talking about net, we would be subtracting out the cost of operating the school buses, the leases, the cost to purchase those buses, or vehicles that are used to transport students to and from the facility. Also, the premiums for the casualty insurance, and then any IT costs pursuant to the statute that I kind of just walked you through. So to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, we originally gave you something about 6 months ago. It kind of gave you an idea of what this looks like. Now, I know this is an awfully busy chart, but you know, we estimate what the overall 100% of the LCI is, and that's based upon the information that we received in the past year. The state doesn't actually calculate this too far in advance, and the primary reason for that is because the school district has not set their millage yet, and they haven't. The final October valuation has not yet occurred, so they won't give us this information until probably about February of next year. The PICO funding they've advised us what that number is, so I think we're right on with that, but that number could also change depending on what the state does between now and next year. So the max allocation here from the LCI would be the 100% LCI calculation less the PICO funding. Then you get a max allocation. And of course, for fiscal year 2025, there's a 40% limitation on what would be coming out of the 1.5 mils. And so we've calculated that down to the $2,045,000. You would add that to the PICO funding, and then we would look to subtract out the annual bus lease purchases, property casualty insurance, and then whatever the IT related capital costs are, which are already included in your budget, which you've already adopted. This gives you a net LCI and PICO funding, which includes the $1.5 million. And the calculation here doesn't drop that out, but whatever was left over from that, which I believe is about about $400,000, that would also be included in the lease, the way we've structured the lease. So the lease basically calls for the minimum of 1.5 plus whatever the net amount is, the net LCI and PICO funding would be after you've subtracted out the annual bus lease purchases, property casualty, et cetera. I probably should have put the actual lease language up here to kind of walk you through what that means. But so the lease language shows you right in the beginning. It says the minimum amount is $1.5 million. Then the second part is that there's an addition to that $1.5 million would be whatever the net amount is after you subtracted out the 1.5 and all these other things. There's a net, and whatever that number is would be added to the 1.5. And that would be a stair-step approach, because if it's 40% in the current year, next year at 60%, whatever those net amounts would be whatever that number is. And that would be added until they're at a point we will achieve where we are today. And that amount is that the charter school has a $1.5 million lease as it exists today, and the city is kicking in $2.6 million, $2,640,000 on an annual basis in order to pick up the other share of the annual debt service for the charter school system, as well as maintenance and capital improvements to the facilities. When it reaches that amount, then any net amount above that would simply be added to, would be the actual lease payment when, whatever that net amount is. So if we got to 27, 28, it'd probably be in about, the net amount would be in about the $6 million range. That would actually be the lease amount. That $6 million would be used for the original $3.1 million, $3.2 million debt service payment, any capital improvements to the facility, and of course would also pick up whatever the lease amount and maintenance associated with the football field or that item that we talked about at the joint meeting. So that's it in a nutshell. Again, I'm not asking you to approve it tonight. Again, the City Council will be going over this at a September 11th at a committee of the whole. We'll be giving basically the same presentation you're hearing today. And depending on what comes out of this, we'll probably add or subtract from that presentation. So I'm here for any questions you have.
Okay, so I'm going to start off tonight, if you don't mind. So I'll start out by saying that, first, I think that you've misunderstood my intentions. I was not trying to come out in front of anything. My intentions were actually to make a goodwill gesture to the city to express that we were willing and in fact eager to pay back the full debt service amount. That was what my intentions were. What I was trying to do was get the board to speak as a one voice and tell the city that we wanted to pay this money back. What we originally did was we went to the city council meeting and we asked them to pump the brakes on it. What your original intention was to increase the lease, because we didn't know what the money looked like at the time. We were unsure of what everything was, and we wanted to see how everything was going to play out. So no, I wasn't trying to get in front of anything.
Okay.
So
My apologies to you
Thank
and
you.
to the board.
So, as far as the September 11th city council meeting goes, you're going to be presenting this in front of them, and are they going to be voting on this lease that day?
No, it's a committee of the whole meeting, so they're just simply discussion and consensus about the structure of the lease.
Okay. So it's my understanding that the lease still is in place until 2026 regardless, and they'll be looking at that lease, maybe changing it, and then it will be presented back to the board, correct?
The current lease that exists today is the lease that is currently active. This is a proposed second amendment to the lease. And this is the lease that we have proposed to both you and the city council. The city council will make any changes to that structure at their September 11th meeting. And if there are any changes, then we'll come back to you with a revised lease. If there is no changes, we'll come back to you with the exact same one for approval.
Okay. And then, so you're not asking for us to vote on this?
I am not asking you all to vote on anything tonight. Thank you.
So as far as you're looking to, any monies that come in after the 1.5 is taken out is going to go straight back to the city, but there's no set amount of that that's going to go towards the sports complex. It's just any money after that just goes to the city, and then the city decides what they're going to do with it?
Okay, just as a reminder again about how the current lease is structured, it's $1.5 million from the charter school. The city is picking up $2,640,000 from its public service tax. Based upon what I understood from the joint meeting, is that the idea is that we want to reduce the reliance on the public service tax. And in order to do that through this stair-step approach of 20, 40, 60, 80, 100%, the only way to do that is that the entire amount of the LCI PICO funding that is net of the expenses that we budget on an annual basis would likely do that. So if there is anything excess, which we have told the city council, right now, we're expecting that when we get to the 100%, it will likely be in the $5, $6, $7 million range, and with nothing but growth after that, assuming that there's continued growth of property values in Lee County, that the number will simply just continue to rise, and the excess and the net will continue to be used for debt service, maintenance for the facility, as well as the debt service for the football complex and maintenance of the football complex.
But those numbers won't be, there won't be numbers for those. It'll
I have
just
no
be-
idea what those future numbers are for the football field. I'm not even sure what the dollar cost is going to be yet. We have an idea of what we originally estimated it to be, but we're 2 years, 3 years beyond that particular estimate, and the cost of construction is much higher today than it was then. And we haven't actually even designed it yet.
Okay.
But-
Councilmember?
I don't know whether that was your interpretation of it or whether you were proposing that, but you had mentioned the lease being the lease now and that this was a 26 and beyond, but in fact, I think it's a proposal to amend the current lease now.
Correct.
Is it, are you clear in that interpretation?
I'm sorry, what was,
So this wasn't a proposal for the second iteration of the lease after this one is finished? This is a
No, this
proposal to
was to-
amend the existing lease?
correct.
Okay. And then, I guess just to clarify the point that Mr. Mason was stating in regards to your inquiry about the money being spent above the 1.5 to spend it however we choose to spend it, I think the idea is that the city will choose to spend it to pay off the debt that's owed beyond the 1.5 that the city's picked up through this.
Yeah, I have to be absolutely clear about this.
So let's start the
This
total
money-
debt.
Yeah, this money is restricted to the school system. So if it's sitting on our side of the ledger, it still has to be spent on the school system, whether it's on debt service, whether it's on maintenance, whether it's purchasing additional buses because the school system is bigger than it was before, whatever that is, it still has to be spent on the charter school system, no matter what. So I can't use this to go pay debt service for some other facility in the city. I can't use it for operating for finance. I can only use it for what it's designed to be used for, and it is very much restricted to that. Statutorily, it is restricted to that.
So what's the total annual obligation to the debt above the 1.5?
Right now, the current debt is 3.138.
So really, the lease should be 3.138, but this
Yes.
system has no financial ability to pay that.
It does not today.
So the point again, just to really hammer it home to everybody, is that the excess is going towards paying off what's owed that the city has picked up because the finances weren't available at the time.
Correct. We amended the lease 2 years ago for that specific purpose by lowering the amount of the lease, and the city would pick up the remainder of it. That's where the excess came in for the public service tax. And, we're at a point now where this particular discussion on the local capital improvement was not on the horizon when all of that was done.
Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you, Mr. Mason.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I also want to clarify that when we say that the city picked up the excess amount, how did the city pick up that excess amount to pay for the debt service, the extra amount on the debt service?
I don't understand your question. We implemented we took away actually, we repealed the 500 kilowatt hour exemption on electric public service tax in order to pick up and utilize that to cover $1.7 million a year annual debt service, as well as capital improvements or maintenance of the facility, which is currently in the current lease.
Okay. You say of your debt service, but we're city-owned and, yeah, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. My question for you is about the excess. So I understand the 1.5, and I understand the debt service and how that will stagger up as we receive the LCI funds. If, for some reason, ultimately the city does not approve building of the football facility, but we've written into this lease that the extra money over the debt service would go to the city, how would that work?
It would go into right now, we have a fund that collects these funds. And, you know, we spend, you know, we spend the maintenance on the facilities from this fund, and any of those funds would simply be used for the maintenance on the facility. If, say, 5 years from now, you had to replace the portables up at the North School, we would do that. If you wanted to add portables at another school, we would purchase out of those funds for the portables. If you wanted to, you know, make application to retrofit a classroom for something else than what it's currently being used for, we would use it for that as well, because that's what it can be used for. Again, the holding tank would be the city, because by Chapter 26 currently, as well as the current lease and the future, and the Second Amendment of the lease, anything over $50,000 still has to come through us for approval for any of the facilities. And so we would simply be the holding tank for that. If there was another vehicle that we needed to buy, you know, for another shark van, for transport, because there's just more going on, again, application, utilize the funds, and move on. That's what we would do.
Okay, so let me use some fake numbers
Sure.
just so I can wrap my brain around it. Let's pretend that in whatever year we're in, we're getting 7 million of funds. And we have exhausted our lease payments, that's covered, the debt service is covered, we've bought every single bus we need. There's not a single dollar more than 6 million that we've spent on any sort of a capital outlay that's allowed under the statute. Does the $1 million just never come because the state says there are no capital expenditures, or does the $1 million go into a fund that can be used later?
The $1 million will come to us anyways. It'll go into a fund to be used later.
Okay,
Yes, absolutely.
yep, thank you.
Dr. Manak?
Sure. How much longer is there debt service for the schools?
It'll be 3.18 million through 2038, and then it drops down for the high school gym, down to about 1.1 million for, I think, 3 years after that.
Great. Okay, great, thank you. And I think just one last point. As we've organized a finance committee, should our finance committee look into this on behalf of the board and come back with recommendations?
I have. So I spent quite a bit of time over the last 2 days looking at the language, thinking about how I would rewrite it if I was rewriting it. But I also needed to ask some questions like this because, for example, something I rewrote is not correct now based on my understanding of it. So yes, what I had hoped is that I would be able to at least present my thoughts to, I don't know, Mr. Moriarty, if you drafted this language or if the city attorney's office had drafted this language, but at least be able to present what I think might be a little bit more clarity on some of the language and at least have that taken into consideration.
I am certainly open to more clarity.
Okay, well, I will happily send that over.
I look
And-
forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, like, in the end, it's, the city has to approve it and we have to approve it. So my goal is to make sure that we're all on the same page and that what I think the language is clear so that in 5 years when the lease comes up for renewal and none of us are on the board anymore and maybe you have retired and someone has replaced you, you're sitting on the beach somewhere, that everyone will understand what it means and that we're, you know, I don't want there to be any sort of misalignment or confusion for anyone.
Well, I've had a couple of people read it, and I would appreciate the clarity. Because I'm getting the feeling that it's not as clear as what I thought it was, so.
Yeah, I think that perhaps some of the misunderstanding is just how the funds are received, held, and then paid out.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I will say from my understanding from our previous conversations, what I read in the document today, you know, my tweaks, which now are, I think some are incorrect, and I'll work on that. I think what is being presented is what we actually want. I think it is, the intent is that we can utilize funds that are set aside specifically for capital outlay of the schools. We want to maximize that because then we can use other monies that are not specifically set aside for capital outlays for things like salary increases. And so this ends up freeing up money that we're using today for some of these expenditures. It also ultimately makes the city and the citizens of Cape Coral whole on our debt service And in the long run, this also can help fund the sports facility.
Thank you.
I think that's exactly the intention, was to bring the debt service to its full amount and make the citizens whole again, now that we are in that position to do so. I think that's always been the intention, if we could do such a thing. So, yeah, I'm happy that we can do that. I'm happy that we have you able to help promulgate that as well, and work closely with Mr. Mason to do so, to make sure that the language works for everybody involved as well. So I think as a board, we can possibly, is this something that we would need to vote on, to have our finance committee work with Mr. Mason to hammer out the language that is then presented to city council on their September 11th meeting?
Direction from the board would be preferable.
Okay, so I think that we should give direction as a board, so we're speaking unanimously to task our finance committee to work closely with finance director to hammer out some details. So we would need a motion to do such a thing. So, do we have a motion to?
Can you include the superintendent in those conversations? You left out the superintendent as part of the discussions.
Would we like our, well, that's another thing. If we feel that the superintendent would be part of these discussions, do we think that would add value to this as well? Which,
Of course,
I
because
think
if
that
it's
it
really a
would,
committee of
because-
two, then it is.
yeah, okay. So I think that's the motion that we're looking for, is to give direction to our finance committee and our superintendent to work closely with Mr. Mason to work out the language of this new lease agreement, which we would be, I think, happy to sign as long as it benefits both parties. And I think that city council would be happy that we, as long as it is presented to city council, where we're saying, yes, let's pay this full lease agreement. This works for everybody involved. I think city council is more than happy to sign this new lease as well. And then we have a new 5-year lease that everybody's happy with. So I think that's the direction everybody wants to go in. And I think that that's the direction we want to. So if there's a motion and everybody's in agreement with that, or if there's any more discussion, please let me know.
I motion that we send the lease agreement to the finance committee as well as the superintendent, so that they can take a look at this and then send some recommendations to Mr. Mason for review.
Second.
Is there any discussion or any more discussion on this topic? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Mason, is there anything else for us today?
No, thank you all very much. I look forward to meeting with
Thank
both of you, along with Mr. Moriarty. He'll want to be there.
Absolutely.
He's not going to let me, go rogue on this one, just so you know. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that brings us to our city council report. Mr. Long?
No specific report. A lot of the activities going on with relation to the city and the charter school were reflected in the last discussion topic with regards to what we've been working on that's charter specific.
Right. Do you feel that the discussions just had now, do you think that that's what city council is looking for? Do you think that's the direction that they're anticipating, that they're wanting? Because I've had some discussions with them, and I think that's what they're looking for.
So all I can say, I don't speak on behalf of city
Of
council,
course,
but the basis of what you saw today in that lease is the result of the joint meeting that we were all present at. So whatever you heard there is what I heard with regards to in relation to this specific lease, which I don't recall being too in-depth. But that's that. And so that's why in a forthcoming meeting, the council will be meeting to discuss what our true intentions are, and obviously that'll be public, and you're welcome to attend, and if not, I'll certainly be able to more accurately convey what we've determined at that point in our next meeting.
Great. And as I stated at our last meeting, if you could like I said, convey, and I really hope my intentions were not misconstrued. I was hoping to speak unanimously as a board that we do wish to pay the full debt service back. And that was what the intention of the resolution that I was thinking of giving to city council was saying, you know, originally we showed up to city council and we had our reservations about raising the debt service because we were kind of nervous. We were saying, what, we're not really sure what, this is all brand new. We don't know what this money's going to look like in a few years. We were kind of just saying, like, can we hold off on this a little bit? It looked like city council kind of agreed on that, but now we kind of see where the numbers are falling, and we're saying, yes, we are happy to do this, and we're trying to send a message to city council saying, yes, we're capable, we're ready, and we're willing to pay this full lease agreement back. So if we can come up with these numbers in this agreement in this lease, we're more than happy. So if you can convey that back to city council at the meeting, we would be grateful for you to do so.
Sure.
Thanks, sir.
Will do, thank you.
Great. All right, that brings us to our foundation report. Mr. Cerny? Hello?
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. I know it's late. I'll abridge this. I always start that way, and it always goes long. Gary Cerny, Foundation President. So we did some planning over the summer, and try to A, quantify our value, and B, try to figure out how to move forward and all this stuff. And so the one thing that we started last year was we took on the Booster Club for the high school, and I think it was actually a huge success. We brought in, I don't have an exact number, but I think the first month was maybe 20-something thousand, then it was a lot more. Anyway, we were able to provide more funding for the athletic department, for all these extras, anything from uniforms to helmet reconditioning to all kinds of things, little ancillary things from the regular budget, I suppose. And then, so we are doing the same thing this year. We're doing our memberships. So if you want a membership, go to our website, capecharterfoundation.com. Half this is going to be a sales pitch, right? The memberships are, we've got our Mako level, which is $25, Hammerhead's $50, and Great White is $100. And with the 100, you get a new shirt, and every year we have a new shirt, and you do not get the shirt unless you pay the $100. So, but you can buy extra shirts for $25. So anyway, but yeah, we're actually just finalizing the design for this shirt, and again, they're very exclusive, and they're awesome. So the other thing that we are doing, we've also sold a lot of banners and things like that. If you've seen them around the school, that actually generates a lot more money than you would think. And we started introducing banners inside the gym as well, which go for a little bit higher rate. And as far as our events, we are kicking around some new ideas. We are not going to do the Rally on the Green this year. The golf tournament, we are actually going to do Rally on the Boards. So apparently cornhole tournaments are kind of becoming a big thing. They make a lot of money, and they're fun, and they're something different. And so we're going to do that October 9th. So save the date. Anybody here like cornhole? Who doesn't like cornhole? Thank you. Try to break the seriousness. There's a lot of seriousness in here. Pretty good at that. Then we're going to do, we're still going to do our little party, where all the kids get to sing and do all their thing at Tropical Breeze, which is really cool. We're going to do that February 28th, 2025. And we are pretty much almost for sure going to do a gala. We've been kicking around for a while. It's very expensive for us to hold it in terms of overhead, but it will be at the Westin, and it will be March 29th, 2025. It's going to be about $150 a head for a plate, which really isn't much if you've ever gone to a real gala. But our objectives there are to get some new blood, and just kind of give a different environment. It's a little more formal, little higher end catering. But again, I think we can reach a lot further for not only sponsorships, but also just attendees. We do have some new couple of new staff members at the school. One of them has been in the area a long time, and he seems to think he can bring in some people. So that's again, new blood, new wallets. You know how it goes. Everybody wants money. That's what most of these conversations about anyway. And then the Lighthouse ceremony, April 4th, 2025. Anybody wants to put in their calendar? And we're always looking for volunteers, participants, and for everything. And all we ask from you is just try to show up to as much of the stuff as you can, or at least forward the information. That's all we're trying to do, you know. And that's it. And just to kind of back up on that gala thing, we did send out a survey. We had a decent amount of response. Probably about 75% of the respondents are absolutely in, was one of the choices. And so it's looking good, but again, it's a big overhead. So we just want to make sure that we're, you know, doing it responsibly and all that. So you guys in? Love you. Come on. I will. That's all I have. Any questions? Nope. Thank you.
So my only question, Gary, was that could you send me almost an email with all those dates specific? I know you guys do a good job of event specific.
Yep.
But for me at least, in order to kind of calendar out the
Yep.
rest of the year, I know you just gave me.
Yeah. We'll have them out. I'll tell you what, I will absolutely do that. I think we have a meeting on Tuesday where we will finalize whether we're going to do the gala or not. It's looking like we are. Once we do that, we'll have a whole list, and we'll send out a general save the date kind of email where you can just hopefully save the date.
Gary, is there some thoughts around the theme for the gala?
There are thoughts. Still a work in progress, but luckily we do have some professional event planners on our team. So whatever it will be awesome. But what are you looking for? Do you have ideas? Because we're looking for ideas.
No, just wondered. I know there's had like just like the mayor has his scholarship event, like the superintendent has an event. So just was wondering which direction you guys are headed, but that could come later.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. I mean, we perhaps will incorporate some sort of a deeper theme. I know we were doing the flashback with the foundation. I don't know if any of you attended. I can't remember, but we had like an 80s and a 70s. It was actually a lot of fun. The old mayor, Joe Coviello, he was there. He's hung out for like 5 hours. I mean, the guy was having so much fun. Spent, probably his entire paycheck there, you know, which was awesome. So, you know, maybe we'll go that direction. But, there is if you do want to take the survey, I mean, it's mostly kind of closed out, but if you go to capecharterfoundation.com or .org, both go to the same place, at the very top, I actually added the survey, a little survey button. It's like 8 questions. It's nothing big. If you want to fill it out, we'd absolutely love that. And just any constructive ideas, because again, we are spending a decent amount of money just kind of, you know, just to get in there. It is the West End, and so we just want to make sure it's as successful as possible. I've been to a couple of these things. I went to the Clearwater one. I mean, they made like $850,000 in about 4 hours, and that was apparently a slow year for them. So we're not that, but what can we, you know, sky's the limit. So we're all ears.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I had skipped over the chair's report. Does anybody have any objection to me backtracking to item agenda 12? No objection? I'll try to keep it brief. I do have a few important things to go over real quickly, though, and I'll try to keep it short. So we do have the Mayor's Ball on September 21st. It appears that we have some great representation there. We have a full table that we're going to be representing, so I think that's fantastic, since a lot of our students are recipients of the awards. So I'm glad that we're going to be there and representing our school with all its glory. So I want to thank everybody for RSVPing to that and showing up. We have our empty seat for the education position on our board. Unfortunately, Mr. Pease is no longer on the board with us. I think we all know he's running for a position on council. And this particular seat is going to be education focused, and I think that it's a very crucial seat. I think that it's important that we keep it an education seat. It's very difficult for us to fill, especially with the new requirements at the moment, because there's a financial form that you have to fill out. So unfortunately, that's scared a few of our recipients off. But that being said, at the moment, we We've had some people apply, but they've rescinded their offers. So anybody that has anybody in their Rolodex for this seat, we would greatly appreciate if you'd reach out. They have to live in the city. And again, they have to have education background. What we're really looking for is somebody, preferably academia, college level, somebody that possibly is in, maybe we can get creative with where they're at educationally. But at this point, we want to try to really keep it in the education realm. So again, if anybody is in your Rolodex and you're thinking of anybody, please encourage them to apply. The financial statements are, it's a barrier, but it's something that everybody has to do now, so. Are we still having city council present on the 28th for our principals? Okay, so on the 28th, our principals are going to, and the admin staff are going to be presented an award. So I think that it would be great if we could have our board members there to support them and show the support out in the, I think that it would show a lot of camaraderie if we were there to boost them for all the great things that they've done. I think this is a big deal. I think that the accolades that they're getting are enormous. So if we can show up in solidarity and show our support, it would be great. It's going to be on the 28th at the city council meeting. So if anybody could, I'm sorry? August. Of this month, yes, yeah. So if we can make time for that, I know we're all busy and we're already clearing our calendars for our meetings and stuff like that, but if we could be there to show our support, that would be great. I think it'd be a good idea. We also have the Charter School Governing Conference coming up on September 7th. I have not had the opportunity to attend one because it always falls on a time when I'm out of town or not here, but I hear amazing things about it. I know Dr. Manai has been to a few of them and he talks very highly about them. So I think that it's a great idea. It's free of charge. You can also attend it virtually, so it's not something you have to go to in person. I've printed out some of the flyers, so I'm going to pass them around to our board members so that you can take a look at it, and you can register online to do it. I think we can pick and choose what classes you want to attend, so you just look through it, and what one looks interesting to you is the one that you'll want to go ahead and sign up for. So I think it's incumbent upon us, if we want to be informed, educated, good board members, that we should be doing things like this so that we can better serve the children and our communities. So I'm going to pass these on down if we could. And then lastly on my agenda, I have, I spoke with Mrs. Sophie Garcia, who is the chair of the Youth Council for Cape Coral. If you don't know the Youth Council, you probably should, because these are going to be your elected officials in years to come. I can promise you that. They're going to be your business leaders. They're going to be people you are going to be knowing and talking about. They're exceptional people. They run their meetings. It is insane the way that they run these meetings. They're such young professionals. They shadowed us on our board last year. It was a lot of fun. It was a great learning experience for everybody. They had a lot of fun doing it. And when I spoke to her at the open house, she now chairs it, and she asked if they could come back. So I was hoping that we could extend that invite and have them come sit and shadow us on the board again. One of the things in our conversation that she spoke about was that they came with some questions and some insight, and they asked if they came with a recommendation for Mrs. Collins, and she actually took that recommendation into consideration and implemented it. And they were so impressed that the school administration would actually listen to their recommendations. And they they were amazed by that, and they talked about that at their next meetings, and they felt heard, and they were very impressed by that. So they wanted to come back and do that again. So I had actually spoken to her today when they were presenting colors, and they were looking at doing the January meeting. So I'm going to try to incorporate that into our January meeting so they can come sit on the dais with us again. And so I will go to their meeting, formally invite them as well. Last time I went to their meeting, they were very excited that somebody was there for public comment to talk to them and invite them, because that doesn't happen often, kind of like our meetings a little bit. So I would encourage our board members to go to that meeting with me as well and talk to them, because they were very excited by the prospect of somebody coming to their public input and talking. So if you have the time, I will send an email out and let you know when that meeting is going to be. And if we can come and show some support for them as well, they greatly appreciate it. All right. That brings me to staff comments. We have Mrs. Corey, please.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank all of you guys for your commitment to our amazing little oasis. I cannot believe it's been a year that I have now been with you, and it has been one heck of a ride. It has been such an exciting experience this year, and I could not be more blessed to work with such amazing people, such a great administrative team, and a lovely superintendent. Wow, the high school's been on fire. I mean, I cannot wait to tell you a little bit about what we're doing. We have grown from 790 students to 900, and we have a waiting list right now. Oasis is the place to be. It's just about every day we get a phone call, somebody wanting to jump onto that waiting list, and I think from what I've heard in the past, that's pretty exciting for the high school, and kind of the first in 15 years from what I'm told, that we have a wait list like this and that we are full at capacity of 900 students. We were very proud to be at A school this year, and also recognized as one of the best high schools by the U.S. News rankings again this year. Data, data, data. Look at all of the elements that go into earning that school grade. It is on the left side, you've got all of your school grade components. On the right side, those are all of the Cambridge tests that were administered this year. A lot of information. We gained 32 points in that school grade. Now we're looking at our learning aids that are in play this year, and we are going to dig deep on how we can improve those. One thing I want to share with you that I think is so exciting about our Cambridge program this year, we increased significantly in the amount of students that were taking Cambridge tests this year. We administered 1,152 examinations in the spring. Students that pass those exams earn college credit, and we had a 66% pass rate, which is higher than the US percent average. One thing that makes that really extraordinarily exciting is we, in the junior year, gave all students the opportunity to participate in a Cambridge course, not just the students that were in the Cambridge program. So now you're talking students that are general education that are now going to get the opportunity to take a college level class while they're in their junior year. And it's called General Paper. And it's teaching them excellent skills that are going to be great for them for post-secondary. And guess what? Look at that pass rate. If you look up there at General Paper, you can see we had 223 students take General Paper, 63% pass rate in general ed. These are kids that had never been in a Cambridge class before. That is very significant. It's significant for our students, and it's very significant for our school grade. It is a mathematical equation in the end. You look at all these different calculations that play into our progress. We are working really hard on our acceleration points. If you look over at the school grade components and you see the acceleration points that Jackie Collins talked about earlier, we're sitting around 72%. There is no reason we can't fire at 100%. And what's going to get us there is by allowing all of our students the opportunity to take acceleration courses and earn them while they're in high school. And they're going to get that through dual enrollment, AP, earning an industry certification by one of our STEM classes, or getting it through taking general paper in our ACE program. So let me break you down what that looked like this year. So when we had a 63% pass rate, we only had 40 students left that didn't earn an acceleration point. 20 of those students earned an industry cert, so we only have 20 students left. And guess what we launched this year? We now have on our campus Kaiser Tools for Success, which is giving all of our students the opportunity to take yet another class to get ready to have the tools for success for when they go to college. And we only have 20 students sitting in that class right now. By participating in that class, we will be firing at 100% at acceleration. That's a significant point gain we'll be looking at when we get there. The one thing I do want you to know about our acceleration points, it is a year in the rears. It takes 4 years to earn it from a class that graduates, and it's 1 year in the rears, because they have to examine all the data and all the acceleration points. I could get into all this data and talk with you all day long. I can tell you that we just had a really deep data dive at our school, and we talked with all of our teachers about what this data looked like, what piece of data they're connected to, and what goals we have for making improvement, and how we're gonna seek out that refinement, that PD, so that we can get better in all of these areas. So we're really excited about where we're charting for this in our future. Super excited that we're implementing AVID and Wicker strategies. These are some great pictures of all of our 4 schools at Summer Institute this summer. It was really, really neat when we sat down, all 4 of our schools, and we talked about what our goals were that we could implement K through 12, and that's what Jackie Collins was talking about. We're really gonna work hard on implementing writing and organization this year, because understand it will take time to build the tool belt of all of our teachers to lift all of these strategies, but by that continuous PD, we're going to be able to do that K through 12. What we did when we came back from AVID training, we took 5 of our teachers, we broke it down into the 5 different areas, and we did what we called a passport training, where all of our teachers sat through a rotation and learned about Wicker strategies and the best practices they could implement in all of their classrooms. And we were so excited that Mr. Hopper brought the middle school over. So it was an incredible collaboration between our middle and high school teachers. So our science teachers were sitting with our science teachers having these conversations about vertical alignment and how we could do writing and science. Pretty cool conversations. That's just some of the pictures from the day of the training that we did. It was highly successful. We really look forward to growing our Wicker tool belts and that continued collaboration between our 2 secondary schools. Again, this is a picture of our OASIS way. That is our school-wide approach. That means it's non-negotiable. We're doing it in all classrooms so that there's consistency for all kids from period to period. I mean, if you think back when you went to school and you were in high school and you were probably on a 7-period day, but you had 7 different teachers doing it 7 different ways. What we're trying to do is get 7 different teachers, really 8 because we're on block, all moving in the same direction, speaking the same language. So we're not losing time in the classroom, and so that we're implementing these strong strategies. So when a student goes from one classroom to the next, they know how to do Cornell notes. They know how to do 4 corners. They know how to do a round robin. So we're teaching these really good strategies, and you would be surprised how good your students get at them. And they just know it, and it's seamless, and you're really increasing that academic time as well. We're also working really hard about Sharks being on time this year. You know, there is such significant research about kids when they don't come to school. Unfortunately, with the pandemic and our incredible gift of technology and getting so good at it, we have all of our Google Classrooms, and students have so much access to technology. Sometimes they don't like to come to school. So we're trying to really increase our measures around getting our kids to school and getting them on time and having intentional conversations about that so that we increase that attendance. So we're really trying to work real hard on Sharks being at school and being on time this year so we can make some improvements so that all students are succeeding and being very successful. These are some pictures around school culture last year. We just had an exciting year. You know, today I met with our Student Government Association, and they were talking about student life this year. They had a record turnout for homecoming last year of students. We had well over 500 students at our homecoming dance. It's just the student life has absolutely been elevated by an increased focus in culture. That was one of those domains that Jackie was talking about that we need to think about when we're looking at our school, because what gets kids to come to school? when they're involved in something and they're excited about being there. So that was really one of our strong points, was really working towards improving student culture last year. And these are some of the pictures from that. If you have not checked out our electronic newsletters that come out quarterly, they are stacked with pictures so that you can see what's going on with student life on campus each quarter. Make sure you do check those out. Athletics was on fire last year. We had a very exciting season. Volleyball was very successful. As I talked about those newsletters, if you haven't seen our summer newsletter, in the center of it is a full spread of all of our academic, our athletic, our arts, all of our achievements last year. What I'm most excited about going into this year, we do have a new head football coach. His name is Coach Bryce Spearman. He loves Oasis, and that is the only place he wanted to be, and he has been on fire since he got there. We have went from 32 football players to 65, and I'm proud to stand here today and tell you for the first time ever we have a JV football team with 5 games scheduled this season. And right now, there's so much excitement back at the school. I guess they decided it was going to be pajama night at the volleyball game, and we have over 200 students in attendance. So it's just exciting that we're getting kids to come out to these events, get excited about their school, because that's what's going to help also increase that performance by getting them there, being a part of something. We have a ton of clubs that we're floating. We have a philosophy at our school. We want something for everyone. We will float any club that a student would like to do if they can find a class sponsor that's going to help supervise that event and support what they need to do with staying on point at their meetings. So we are working on our list for this year. We've got some new clubs coming open that will also be published on our website. So make sure you check that out. If you haven't seen our school brochure, that is up electronically on our school website as well. That shows all of our programs and everything that we offer. All of the pictures on there are from last school year. And this year, we have a lot of exciting things coming, talking about and aligning with the strategic plan that Ms. Collins talked about. We will be having a college fair. Our college fair was amazing last year. We had over 32 colleges represented in our Oasis gym. So all of our students, 9 through 12, got to walk around and talk to all of the colleges and start thinking about what they want to do next. You had schools like University of Miami, UF, Florida State. We even had some out-of-state colleges that attended, and even some college and career and technical schools. We also have our career fair scheduled March 7th, so if you know of any businesses that would like to be at that was an exciting experience because not all kids do want to go to college. So some of them got to meet with engineering firms. We even had aviation there. We had builders there, Sun State College, all different careers that you could imagine where students could walk around and meet these local businesses and different careers here right in our county that they could learn more about and get involved in and, potentially have a career right after high school. We have 2 exciting shows coming up in our Center for the Arts this year. We're going to be doing Alice in Wonderland and the Addams Family, so get ready for that in May. And I'm really excited and want to thank Mr. Hopper by sharing his amazing music teacher. For the first time ever, we have a music class with over 30 students in band, so we are having music this year. He was so generous to share her with me. So first period, we have over 30 students in that class now that they're walking over to do music. So hopefully you'll get to hear and enjoy some of that music later this year. We do have our first home game this Thursday against Gateway. If you want to see what all the excitement is about, come on out to that game. We'd love to have you. It's at 7 o'clock. We're going to have Paco's Tacos, the food truck there. So come spend some of your money, and you can spend some money there with the foundation, who's going to be there as one of our vendors. But we really had an exciting year. We're off to a great start. There's so much more I want to tell you, but I was told 5 minutes, and I think I've already went over in my time because I'm such a proud principal of what we're doing and couldn't be happier to be here. So. Questions? You said you had some questions for me. No?
Okay. I can attest I've seen a significant difference in the student life in the high school since you started there, so thank you. I know we've just had a win with our football team for their first game of the year, so that's very exciting.
27-0.
Yeah, and we're playing our home game this
Yes,
week?
it's at the Calusa Field.
Okay, great. Hopefully not for much longer, right? So, it's this is the piece of the puzzle that we've been missing for a long time. Like you said, this is what's going to bring the kids to the school. This is why we are now at full capacity at 900 students. This is what makes kids want to come to school. It's the whole package, and this is what we have been missing for a while, and you've brought it, so thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, and all of you guys are welcome to come have a tour anytime. You want to see what it's like during the day and how things are going?
It's exciting.
Come on in.
There's a buzz. It's a different place.
Yeah, one quick note about the career fair. Amazon, I think, has made a decision to have their fulfillment center here in Lee County. 4,000 jobs.
Wow.
And they'll pay for a 4-year education.
We have to get them there.
You've got to get them there.
Yes.
Right, yes, I do that.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Any more questions? Great.
Thank you for your
Scott.
time.
Yeah. All right. Ms. Daniels?
Good evening. So I'm the transportation manager at the Oasis Charter Schools. Been there now 4 years. This is going on my 3rd full year as manager. So the transportation department has 20 qualified CDL drivers. We have 1 dispatcher with a CDL and myself as the manager with a CDL. Our veteran driver, we have 1 veteran driver that's been with Oasis Charter Schools for 15 years. So all of the drivers go through yearly training. This year they did the defensive driving, CPR first aid, and the mental health training. So I just wanted to let you know where we stand, like 1 week in from school, which has been extremely busy. But I would do it again and again every year. So as of today, we have a total of 1,455 students on a bus. This is more than we had last year. When we ended the school year last year, we only had 1,420. The breakdown, we have 409 riders for the Oasis High School. We have 495 riders for the Oasis Middle School. We have 233 riders for the Oasis Elementary North. And we have 318 riders for Oasis Elementary South. 1 week into school, and we already have a waiting list. Oasis Middle School, I have 3 buses. Route 20 is a middle school, very popular, northeast area. I have 7 students waiting to get on that bus. Oasis Middle, Route 29, I also have 7 students. That's like going up Burnt Store and that side of the town. I have another Oasis Middle School, Route 21, which is like the Sandoval, Trafalgar, Heatherwood Lakes, with 1 person on a waiting list. And then for Oasis High School, Route 15, which is the northeast Gator Circle up by Del Prado, we have 3 students on a waiting list. I already have some buses that are completely full. They're at their capacity of 52 students on a bus. Oasis High School has 3 of those routes full, and Oasis Middle School has 2 of those routes are completely full. So when parents sign up for a transportation request form, I have to do the verification of their address, and that's how I assign their bus to their home address. We currently have 21 no match, meaning that the address that they put on their transportation request form doesn't match the address with the school. So I send out emails to the parents letting them know your address doesn't match. I can't assign you a bus. Some have already gotten back. They've gotten with the school, changed their address, but these 21 have not. So once they make that change, that'll be an additional, possibly additional 21 more people on the bus, depending on whether they fall into where the buses are already full. Then they'll go on a waiting list. So it's already been a busy year. Moving forward, and something to kind of consider, with the number of students attending our school, the growing in Cape Coral, parents need transportation. We might need to increase our fleet of buses and possibly add some more drivers to kind of accommodate all of our riders. I do know that I get a lot of phone calls where they kind of know how we have the depot stops and they may not be close to the bus stop, so they'll ask me, you know, I'm thinking about getting on the bus, but I need to know how far away it is, where it is. And some of them are like, nope, we'll have to bring them to school because the bus, we're short on buses, so to speak. We don't have enough for the depot stops. So if we had more buses, more drivers, I think we'd definitely have more riders. So that's where I stand 1 week into school.
1,455 bus riders. That sounds like a logistical nightmare. So your organizational skills must be superb. We thank you for what you do. That has to be a very, very difficult job, so.
Oh, at times.
She's worked a lot of overtime hours. She's worked a lot of long weeks. This is one of the few years that we've had at the second week of school, very few people waiting to get on a bus. She's got everybody, and she's a one-man show, gotten everybody, all those kids on the bus over the course of the summer and after the first day of school. So it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, we thank you. I don't know how you do it. We thank you for that.
Thank you.
Do you
Thank
have any
you.
questions? Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, that brings us to new business.
All right, I guess I will go ahead and get it started. My name is Nicole Reitler. I am the budget administrator for the city of Cape Coral. Tonight, I'm going to walk you guys through budget amendment number 1 for fiscal year 2024. This is your one and only budget amendment for fiscal 2024. Go ahead and get that started for you. So just to explain what the budget amendment accomplishes, so basically each year you guys go in and you adopt your budget, but throughout the year things come up, things change. So adjustments for previously approved items will go into any of your budget amendments. Any category changes for your expenditures, if something was previously adopted as capital and we're moving it to the operating budget to cover another expenditure, that would go on one of our budget amendments. Any potentially unbudgeted or unplanned items, we decide to move forward with purchasing another shark van, we would include that on your amendment. And then at the end of each year, we do have purchase orders or encumbrances that roll forward from the prior year. So we do include those into your budget amendment to increase your budget for the adoption. With your fiscal year 2024 BA1, previously you had adopted a $47 million budget. We are adjusting it by $1,835,000 and change to bring you up to $48.8 million. As you can see, your categories for revenues increasing are your intergovernmental, miscellaneous, and then your fund balance for those encumbrances. And on the expenditure side, we're increasing your capital and then your operating expenses. To highlight some of the items that are in your budget amendment, the biggest chunk of money going in is your grants and donations. These are all previously approved items that you have reviewed and gone through at your previous board meetings. Anywhere from your school hardening grant to science grants. A big chunk of that is your LCI funding for the $909,000. That takes up about $1.125 million of this year's $1.8 million budget adjustment. We also do have that fiscal year 2023 encumbrance carry forward of $710,000. That includes all the purchases from 23 that rolled into 24 that was funded with 23 money. So currently I'm requesting approval to amend your budget from the $47 million to the $48.8 million, and I'm here for any questions.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve fiscal year 24 budget amendment number 1.
And do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Mhm. All right, that brings us to item B, 16B.
Okay, last item of the evening. I am requesting for approval to hire one additional bus driver for FY25 this school year. What we have found is that typically the middle school has the largest ridership. However, we've had a matriculation from 8th graders into the high school, and we've increased enrollment at the high school, which has brought us into a little bit of a predicament. We have the Northwest section that has really grown tremendously. And at the very beginning of the school year, we had 30 students on a wait list to ride the bus to and from school to the Northwest section. Tammy and I brainstormed, and what we did was we took our existing spare bus, took our one existing sub driver, and we are transporting these students back and forth to school at the high school. We were going to do this as long as we could until we could do a budget amendment to hire an additional driver. However, what we're finding now is that because our sub, our one and only sub, is working and driving the routes, we don't have anybody that can cover when our drivers are out. So we've had a couple absences already. We have one person that's going to be going out on FMLA potentially to take care of a sick relative out of state. We don't have any additional bodies to cover these routes because we're kind of in an emergency mode where we're covering the overage that we have to address. So it would be very beneficial to the high school and to the transportation department if we could hire an additional driver. This position will not go away in upcoming years because of the influx of students that are now coming into the high school, and we find that this particular area is largely growing. So if the governing board would approve the addition of one additional driver, we will adjust and true up when we do our budget amendment, which we originally scheduled to do in October. However, we'd like to push that back just a little bit because in October is when we do our one of our most important surveys that adjusts enrollment from summertime months to actual enrollment after the first 10 days, the first 10-day count. So it's a real, true reflection of enrollment and a real good reflection of what additional dollars we will be seeing as revenue from this enrollment increase. So we'll be doing that budget amendment probably in January. We don't know what our exact revenue dollars will be until the first 2 weeks in December. And I can't wait until January in order to ask the governing board for an additional driver when I need them now. So my recommendation is to please approve the high school for just an additional driver. The budget impact is approximately $55,000 and change for the school year. The budget department can give us a more specific number. This is from HR, but I wanted to let you know what the budget impact would be, and it's not significant. Questions?
So this is definitely an exigent situation, a good situation though, because that means
It's a great
we've got
situation.
more students that are attending our school. So, yeah, if we can't bus them or we don't have a bus driver or a bus driver calls in sick, that throws a wrench in so many people's days, because then they have to drive their kids to school, so they're calling into work or they're going to work late, and it really throws a wrench into a lot of people's days. So I think that it's a no-brainer that we do this. So please, Ms. Michaels.
Will the funding just come from reserves now until January?
It's a discussion that Nicole and Cassandra and I have to have. We'll have to discuss where it comes from. Do you want to add anything to that?
We would take a look at potential use of reserves, but based on personnel savings throughout the year, we should have more than enough funding to cover those costs and not need to dip into reserves.
Do you have any other questions on the board? No? Okay. So do we have a motion to approve hire an additional bus driver for fiscal year 2025?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Great. Any other discussion? No, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our final board comments and discussions. We'll start down here with our parent representatives.
I just have a very quick question, I guess for Mrs. Collins. I'm just wondering, because it's still all over the news, about how Lee County is still very understaffed and there's still so many. I'm just wondering, how is our staffing? Are we fully staffed mostly with teachers this year, or do we still have a bit to fill?
We've done a very good job with our staffing this year. We just had a teacher resign, so we do have an opening at the elementary school south, and we still have an opening for guidance counselors. They're just very hard to find, but otherwise, we're in very, very good shape. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I think Lee County's down, like 400 spots, positions, yeah. I mean, they're much, much larger school, but, yeah. It's still, yeah. Great, thank you, sir.
No questions or comments. You know, the year's just getting started, so no questions and no complaints yet, right? But I am looking forward to what the school year brings. I'm really excited. And I think you said it best, you know, with the news coming out of the high school, it does seem like that may be, you know, the missing puzzle piece there. So I'm happy to see it all come together, and I'm especially happy to know what the future holds for my little boy there, Jason Soto. That's my son. And I can't wait to see him get into the middle school and through the high school. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Get some use out of that new sports complex coming.
That's right.
Mr. Long, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just a quick comment to thank the administration, all of our principals, leaders, and all the teachers that are out there.
Thank you.
I just have a few things real quick, but thank you everybody who came out this evening. I have to say thank you so much, Jackie. I mean, amazing. I mean, really, really amazing. And everyone, Mr. Hopper, everybody, you're doing all a fantastic job. Jack, everybody. But I just have a quick question on busing real quick. For the bus stops, who is in charge of maintaining the grounds as far as where the children are? Does anybody know? Just a quick question on that.
I think it depends on where the bus stop is. Some
Okay.
have sidewalks, some don't, some have benches. If it's private property, we are not in, we will complain if there's an issue that we see could be addressed. We will also adjust bus stops if there's construction in that area.
Okay.
There's a big pothole, parking is not safe for parents that want to park and wait for the bus. So we try to handle it on a case-by-case basis.
The only thing that I have noticed is that some of the vacant lots are overgrown, and so it really needs to be mowed down where the children's supposed to be sitting by those benches, so it's not maintained properly. And since we're in the school year, I'm not sure who's in charge of it, but if someone could overlook that, I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay? That's all my comments. Thank you.
Ms. Santacelli?
No comments for today.
Mr. Panay?
Just a stellar strategic plan. It's so much fun to see how you're measuring performance. My guess is we're going to do that in many of our board meetings. So phenomenal. The high school excitement was just phenomenal as well. Yeah, what a phenomenal start to the year. That's it. That's my word for the day. Phenomenal. Great.
Okay. So I'd like to remind everybody that, you know, our children went to school for the first date, and they went into a well-maintained, pristine school that was a flawless transition, and that did not happen by accident. All the behind-the-scenes things that took place by all the administration, the teacher, the staff, everybody, you know, all the work that they put in over the summer to make that happen, it was not seen. It was all done, all the hard work that they put into it so that our children could just walk through those doors, be embraced with smiles. But I noticed all of that, and I know all the hours that were put into to make that happen. So thank you for all of that, and it was definitely noticed by me, and I think probably the rest of the board, and I think the parents did too. So As far as our A rating, I mean, come on. A in all 4 schools again, and then the high school is only 1 of 2 in the entire county. I mean, that's unheard of, that's exceptional. I went to open house to the middle school and the high school. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody in the elementary anymore. We've passed that, but it was great to see all the new intercom systems. It was great to see that bright sign out front flashing and telling us what's going on. So it was nice to see all the improvements, and and that was no small part to the city coming in and helping with our partnership with them to get all that done over the summer, because that was a lot to get done, and they did it in a very short period of time. So again, all these moving parts happening over the summer so that our kids could come into this, and all the people doing this for us, and all the hours and the sweat equity going into it. So thank you so much for all that. So that being said, time and date of our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. And that'll be here in Chamber of Councils, and we will see you then. Meeting adjourned.